Good morning. It's Monday, and I have Troy and Jessica here from the OSU Extension office, right? Office or service? I always forget. Or both?
Both.
Both? Yeah.
Both work.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to have kind of a little discussion about GMOs this morning, but can you both just tell us what you do over at the OSU Extension office?
Sure.
Troy?
I'm
You can
Troy
start.
Downing, dairy extension specialist for OSU. So I work a lot with the commercial dairy industry doing research and applied teaching projects and stuff with dairy producers around the state.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And I'm Jessica Linnell, and I am the assistant professor.
You have to talk right into that microphone.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
In family and community health, and my background is in nutrition.
Okay. So, and you recently, Jessica, wrote something for the Pioneer, right?
I did.
The Tillamook County Pioneer online. Can you tell us a little bit about that article and kind of recap it maybe for us?
Absolutely. So GMOs are often a topic of conversation from the side of nutrition and also in agriculture. And so I put together an article that just opened the conversation about GMOs. I wanted to get some good resources out to the community to be able to consider, what they think about GMOs with some good science-based facts. So the article started out with talking about what GMOs are, and then covered a little bit about what we know about how GMOs relate to our health.
And I feel like we should maybe, because in life, just in general, we talk in a lot of acronyms. And so sometimes I like to, let's pause for a second and talk about the word GMO, or acronym, I guess, because it stands for genetically modified organism.
Yes,
Is that
it
right?
does.
Okay.
Yes.
Which, and I was saying before we went on air, in my mind, I don't personally believe this, but I feel like there's a large group of people that when they hear GMO, especially because of marketing in the stores and in commercials and things, people equate GMOs to chemicals that, okay, this isn't genetically modified, which means I'm not going to be putting as many chemicals in my body, but that's not necessarily what that means in any sense, I don't think. So can we talk about I don't know which one of you wants to take it, but what does GMO mean as far as our food?
Absolutely.
I think maybe he could probably talk about the agriculture side and you could talk about the nutrition side, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll give you a couple of definitions here. So for genetically modified organisms, these are plants, animals, and microbes that have been modified by methods like selective breeding. And so what that means is breeding only those those plants that have desired traits. There's another process called hybridization, which is the crossbreeding to other organisms for the desired traits. And then there's another process where people can purposely cause mutation in plants to express the desired traits. So right before we went on air, we were talking about the 72-day corn.
Yes.
And that is an example of selective breeding, where there's corn that grows a little bit faster. And so those particular corn were bred specifically to be able to grow here in Tillamook.
Right. Which, exactly, here we have a shorter environment, shorter environment for them to grow because of our sun. Lack of sun?
Yeah, we just have fewer growing heat days because we're here on the coast.
Right. And, you're talking about selective breeding and those kinds. I mean, that it's been around for a long time. I remember in, it must have been freshman or sophomore year in high school, we grafted apple trees together to make different, or branches of an apple tree. Technically, that's genetically modified, is it not? Because I took two different types of branches and put them, or it was something like that, where we made our own apple variety based on taking two different types of apples and putting them together and growing a tree from it. Did the tree survive? Probably not, but because I don't have it, so I don't know where it is. But I mean, it's been around for a long time. I know that's how we have all the variety of plants that we do, roses and apples and oranges. And am I right?
Well, the grafting, it probably isn't genetically modifying the DNA sequence, but it's creating a plant.
But it's the same type of
But
result.
you are managing plants in ways that give you more desirable outcomes. But we've been selecting for desirable plants and animals since the beginning of time. And so the real controversy seems to come in, though, as we've understood more about genetic technology and the ability to use technology. We've started considering altering base pairs and things to get desirable gene expression
Right.
in ways that are above and beyond just natural selection of plants, of crossbreeding. So instead of just taking this bull and this cow and breeding them, we're actually able to alter genetic base pairs and, for example, have calves that don't have horns. So we can select for polled cattle, for example. And there's many examples of how we've done this for many years. I've really seen sort of the increase in controversy, though, as we've selected for herbicide resistance.
Right.
But there's many people that are concerned about a lot of genetic manipulation of plants and animals for food production. And Jessica did a really nice job, I think, highlighting some examples of things we've done that we all sort of take for granted. Would you want to share those? You think?
Sure, absolutely. What Troy's talking about is genetic engineering, which is another term that people use. So in addition to GMOs, which is the selective process and hybridization, but there's also genetic engineering where through biotechnology, we're able to modify the genes directly. And that involves isolating the genes of interest and then putting that into the plant or animal that we want it to be expressed. A great example of that is golden rice. And so one of the concerns from a global perspective about feeding humans is nutrient deficiencies. And vitamin A deficiency is a really big problem worldwide, in particular in Southeast Asia. And so scientists wanted to find a way to modify rice to be able to express more vitamin A because rice was a food staple. And it was a really easy way to help people get more vitamin A. And one of the big issues for people when they have vitamin A deficiency is blindness. And so they engineered this rice to have lots of vitamin A, and through studies were able to demonstrate that they were correcting vitamin A deficiency and preventing people from going blind.
Wow.
So that was a pretty important thing to do and a great benefit for
that society, that culture.
And so that's one argument to be made for the usefulness of GMOs.
I have to take a quick break. Maybe we can talk about, do you have kind of some general myths that people attribute to GMOs that maybe we can address?
Well, we certainly can talk about some of the challenges. And one of the things I did want to talk about is those folks that are opposed to GMOs, what we see in the literature in terms of scientifically where those folks tend to lie. So we can talk about that when we come back.
Okay, great. Are you ready to go to work? Tillamook Motor Company has huge discounts on commercial vans, plus 0% financing for up to 72 months. Ford Transit vans stand head and shoulders above the competition. You can configure the cargo doors to suit your job, and the cargo box floor is flat with near vertical sides for maximum usable space. Choose from a wide range of products designed to suit different trades: cargo dividers, multi-racks, bulkheads, and sliding platforms. Use your imagination to create one hardworking vehicle designed with you in mind. Smart vans, smart savings, smart moves. Take a test drive today at Tillamook Motor Company on the friendly corner of 5th and Main in downtown Tillamook. Tillamook Motor Company, a better place to do business. So we're talking with Troy and Jessica from the OSU Extension Service this morning, and we're talking about GMOs, genetically modified organisms. So what are some of those kind of things that you hear a lot related to GMOs that you're always like, it's not quite 100% true?
Well, there's quite a few of them that relate to both food safety and environmental concerns, and those are the serious questions that our U.S. Department of Agriculture and Food and Drug Administration attempt to address when we approve and modify stuff. But sort of the real question, and Jessica and I have been talking about this quite a bit, is why are there a segment of our population that don't trust our FDA and USDA to ensure public health and environmental health? The two of us both believe in science. we've convinced ourselves that we're, as an agricultural community and scientific community, that we're transparent about what we know and don't know, and that we're making good decisions to help agriculture advance safely. But there's a number of things, and I've got a colleague, Gary Stevenson, that wrote a paper as part of a OSU College of Ag series of white papers on GMOs that I think really made some difference in my understanding. And he really highlighted what we know about people's values. And he would argue that it's because of difference in values that we don't necessarily accept that GMO crops are totally safe. And some of the things that he's highlighted that are in the literature, for example, are some real concerns people have on corporate control over agriculture, concerns over the ability to patent genes and restricting access to genetic bases that they feel are publicly owned. So this kind of gets into corporate ownership of DNA, the advance and the consolidation of wealth and power, the biodiversity of farmers controlled by seed companies. So again, kind of going back to corporate stuff. The desire for a natural agricultural future. In other words, we shouldn't be dictating where ag goes in the future, that there's some in our populations that believe that we're messing with the future of mankind.
Right.
And there's some religious beliefs. And so you start putting values and morals on top of some of these decisions in agriculture, and all of a sudden I can understand why people get so excited. And if you have those concerns, then in any scientific group of literature, you can find papers or examples of things that support maybe your viewpoint.
Right.
If you look at all of them and get an average consensus of the safety and effectiveness of GMOs, you might end up with a different conclusion than if you look for a paper that highlights the one possible concern. And so I think that's part of the reason why the public has been so challenged with this topic is it's complex. All GMOs are not the same. There's GMOs that are genetically selected, and then there's GMOs that are genetically engineered. A number of things have been actually reducing our herbicide and insecticide usage.
So I wanted to touch on that because I mentioned that before we went on air that the Farm Bureau had come in, it was last year sometime, and we talked about GMOs as part of a different conversation. And I don't remember who it was, but one of them mentioned that with GMO corn or crops or whatever, it actually reduces the amount of chemicals that are needed to spray and herbicides to keep the pests away because they've modified them in a way that the pests aren't interested in that crop anymore.
Yeah, and it just depends on what's been genetically altered. But one of the things that I did want to get everyone thinking about a little bit is we have 7.5 billion people on Earth today. We're projected to be 9 billion, like in 2043. We only had 1.5 billion at the turn of the last century, and 6 billion around 2000. Our Earth has never had such an incredible demand on its water and land. We continue to pave over stuff. You asked us earlier whether we're pro-GMO or not, and I can tell you, I think these are tools that we need to solve problems with feeding an ever-increasing population. So I think we need to make wise decisions and be honest about the risks. But I don't want to just throw the whole opportunity out, because when I look at what it's going to take to continue to feed this many people,
right?
These are some tools I think really have served us well.
Well, and that kind of goes along with what I was saying about not using chemicals, and not modifying a crop so that the pests aren't interested in it and kind of leave it alone. Because if you are going the route of not using GMO and no chemicals, you're not going to be able to provide for the people in the world that need the food. It's just not. And, bugs themselves are being they're not purposely being modified, but they're adapting to what's going on around the world, and they're becoming less resistant to or more resistant to herbicides and things like that. So it's kind of another way to go around it.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a constant challenge and battle, and as people working in agriculture, we need to use wise use of both our herbicides and insecticides. We can have the same conversations about antibiotic use in humans.
Right.
As the population increases and these pathogens and diseases continue to evolve and respond to stuff that we provide to combat them, we need to continue to make good decisions about how we use these products.
Yeah, for sure. Can you speak a little bit more about the nutritional? I know you talked about like the rice and the vitamin A. Can you speak a little bit about the nutrition of GMOs? I mean, is it any different besides modifying it to provide maybe something different, like the rice? Is there any nutritional difference between a genetically modified? I'm just going to use corn because I think that's kind of a lot of people talk about corn. And I know the corn we grow here is really for the cows, not necessarily us, but regular corn that you buy in the store. Is there any difference between a GMO and a non-GMO? Or they call that heirloom. I don't know. I don't know the difference there.
So heirlooms, I think, are just varieties. I'm not sure that they are necessarily genetically modified.
Well, I
guess they have been through selection over time. But
yeah.
As far as the nutritional differences, certainly there's going to be a little bit of difference. You know, there might be more nutrients that are available because of whatever the selected trait is. For example, if something like tomatoes is an heirloom variety, maybe is a purple color, that is actually going to have some different nutrients than a red one because it has some different antioxidants, for example. On the other side, then when we're talking about safety, as far as, consequences, health consequences of consuming GMOs, there's really no difference. That the many studies have been done looking at the negative consequences potentially of ingesting GMO products. The one that comes to mind probably for most people is cancer. People are worried that by modifying the genes of something that we eat, that would harm our own DNA. And studies have consistently shown that is not a concern, that there is no safety concern there with cancer in particular.
Okay. I have to take a quick break and we're going to talk about Robies. You don't buy furniture every day, so it just makes sense that when you do invest in that new sofa or recliner, that you're paying the best price possible. The same goes for that mattress or your refrigerator. At Robies Furniture and Appliance, you'll find the top name brands, Maytag, Frigidaire, La-Z-Boy, Lane Simmons, Tempur-Pedic, and more, all under one roof and all at low prices. Robies offers high volume pricing and selection with small town service and a smile. They have something in every price range and every taste. And don't forget, Robies offers free delivery to veterans and active duty military. See them right now for great savings, serving the folks who call the coast home. Robies Furniture and Appliance, Astoria, Tillamook, Lincoln City, Newport, and Florence. So we're talking with Troy and Jessica from the OSU Extension Service this morning, and we're kind of talking about a little hot topic. And while I mentioned this, but I kind of wanted to go back to it. It popped up when you were talking about cancer. I feel like there's a little bit of marketing that's going on too, where things that are like, it's kind of the new marketing thing now is no GMO. People are sticking stickers on things. And I don't know how you check into that. Like natural was a big thing. Like 10 years ago, everybody was because there's no regulations regarding natural, putting the word natural on something. I have a marketing background and I remember I was in marketing when that happened. So I remember natural, everything. But then there was no regulation. So how do you know if it's really natural? And I don't know. Is it the same thing with the GMO? Are there regulations around putting a sticker on a thing of juice or I don't know. Is there that says no GMO? Do you know?
Well, I would say I'm not sure if we have any clear guidance in that area. I know it's been discussed a lot, but if we go back to the original definition that Jessica was talking about, a genetically modified organism, and we talk about making natural selection as part of trying to develop the best orange by breeding programs, or the best dairy cow by breeding programs, or the best corn by breeding programs, essentially everything we have are GMOs under that definition.
Mm-hmm.
The genetic engineering, where we're literally taking DNA from a different organism, or we're intentionally modifying some in the lab of a plant or an animal, that's a different definition, and we don't see anybody advertising stuff about genetic engineering that I can see on our orange juice. But
yeah.
So I think all of it's, in my opinion, it's try to at least it's misleading,
right,
at best.
Well, and I think my point is
consumers
that I don't think I'm being very eloquent about it, is that it's lending itself to the fear or hesitation of accepting GMOs, just like on, I think, is it milk? It says like no antibiotics. Well, yeah, no milk should have antibiotics in it because they're not allowed to.
Exactly.
But it lends itself to that whole conversation of no chemicals, no, and if you're not informed or you don't inform yourself and are just going by marketing, I mean, marketing is crazy. I have background in it, and it is crazy.
Food companies are very good at marketing to make sure that consumers are buying their product. Mm-hmm. And recent consumer research has shown that labels like gluten-free, doesn't contain antibiotics, that is motivating people to believe they should be worried about those things.
Yeah.
Instead of just being information, it is actually causing people to be fearful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is a concern. And with the GMO labeling in particular, right now there is a movement of companies who are putting non-GMO. You might see a sticker that's by the Non-GMO Project.
Mm-hmm.
They've been really successful at getting it out there, but it is not part of the FDA or USDA labeling requirements. And that in itself can be very confusing and misleading.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know that there's any, I haven't looked into it, so I really don't know, but I don't know if there's regulations around it. Like, I know for a while, and I don't know if it's still the case, but to label something organic, you have to go through a certain set of regulations. Your farm has to be tested. I mean, there's very strict regulations about using the word organic. But when the whole natural movement came out about 10 years ago, there wasn't. And so you could just put the word natural or make it seem like it was natural, even though if you look at the ingredients, there's a lot of chemicals and things like that in it. So I kind of feel like that's the same way the GMO movement is going, is that it's just people are trying to find that one little, oh yeah, well, it's mostly GMO, so, we'll use it, but nobody's really regulating it.
Well, it's an amazing process to go through to get the regulations put in place for food package labeling.
Sure.
And so the natural one is an issue that nutrition scientists and the federal government have been debating for some time because it's so complex, as you pointed out.
Right.
And GMOs has been a similar discussion where there's, on one side, it's important for consumers to have the information to be able to make good informed choices about the foods they're eating, but it's really difficult to come up with a definition in order to have those kinds of labels. So it's I do know those conversations are going on. There is interest in providing some kind of regulation around it, but we'll see where that goes.
Right. Well, it's, I'm sure, a very long process with a lot of people involved.
Yes.
We are just about out of time, but I wanted to, do you have some resources that people can go to if they have questions about, I mean, I'm sure they could probably come talk to you, right?
They're welcome to come talk to us. We're out on 3rd Street there.
Are you in the new building?
In the new building next Community College building there, across from the fairgrounds. But also, if someone wanted to email me, I'd be happy to email them this White Series paper that the College of Ag at Oregon State University put together. I think it does a nice job in a fairly short document to describe what are GMOs, why are they developed, overviews the morals and values, some of the economics, and then offers lots of citations and other resources for reading. So I'd be happy to send that to them. If people are interested, they can email me at troy.downing, DOWNING, at Oregon State, all one word, .edu.
Oh, that was neat. I was thinking it was going to be like an OregonState.or.us, but that was the easy one, OregonState.edu.
OregonState.edu. Or you can come see me, and I'm more than happy to email it to you or print it off for you. And we can keep this conversation going.
Are there some good websites or besides like a study, because I know sometimes those can be a little dry to read. Do you have any good websites or anything like that that people could visit that have good information?
There's a really great one that's called foodinsight.org. It's an organization that their whole job is to pull together the scientific information. It's all scientists putting together great stuff for everybody to read. It takes the dry science and turns it into something that is actually useful in helping understand
and understandable, and kind of breaks it down. Because that I am not a science person, so when I those studies sometimes can be a little overwhelming and hard to disseminate the information I'm trying to get out of it.
And if you're on Facebook or Twitter, they're a really great one to follow because they have really timely posts about research that's coming out that you might be hearing about in the news. And it has great facts that, just elaborates a little bit on the story to help you understand what is the research saying.
Right.
So that's
and kind of breaks it down again. Food Insight. Yes. And they're on Facebook, Twitter. And you said foodinsight.org.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks again for coming in this morning. I feel like we need to like recap because it's kind of a long, big conversation. I don't want to. GMOs don't necessarily mean chemicals because I really feel like that's kind of marketing, and you hear, like I think there was a protest downtown a couple years ago about because I feel like people equate GMO to Monsanto?
Monsanto you're referring to? Yeah.
Which is, can you really quickly tell me who they are? Because I don't know. Are they a chemical company?
Well, they're chemical and they also develop plants. So they've been one of the leaders in developing this Roundup Ready products, and that's why they've received so much scrutiny as well as lots of farmers use them in their products.
So their products withstand Roundup? Is that kind of...
So the idea behind... So the corn that we grow here, for example, could either be or could not be Roundup Ready, which means if you're going to prepare the site, you need to eliminate the competition. Most farmers would spray out the grass that was existingly growing and then plant the corn.
Right.
If a corn is Roundup Ready, you have some flexibility. Then you can wait till the corn plant comes up and then spray out the grass. So it just gives you a few more weeks flexibility. Typically, we'd still use the Roundup. We'd still use the same amount of Roundup. We just have more flexibility as a farmer with the Roundup Ready product.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So I know, and like we said, GMO doesn't necessarily mean it's being sprayed with chemicals. It actually could mean that it's not being sprayed with chemicals at all because it's not being eaten by some type of pest.
Yep.
And we've said there's really, so far studies have shown there's not a huge nutritional difference. In fact, they can be nutritionally beneficial.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you we're not investing in GMO products to reduce food safety, reduce productivity, and increase feed cost or food prices. We're doing just the opposite. And I think we need these tools to feed this increasing population. I think is the way I look at it. Anyway.
Right. Good conversation this morning. Let's see. Tomorrow, the YMCA will be here. Don't forget senior meals, noon every weekday at the Kiowanda Community Center, as well as the Tillamook Senior Center at 4th and Stillwell, 11:30 at St. Mary's by the Sea in Rockaway Beach every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Cost is $3 for seniors and $6.75 for everyone else. On Friday, there's a benefit dinner, open mic, and art sale at Fairview Grange. And this weekend is the Step Back in Time event around Tillamook County at a variety of museums, the Forest Center, the Old Iron Show, and the Oregon Scenic Coast Railroad. Tickets are available at eventbrite.com, the Pioneer Museum, or the Garibaldi Maritime Museum. On Friday, the Manzanita Farmers Market runs 5 to 8, and Saturday in Tillamook 9 to 2. Nescoin Farmers Market from 9 to 1 on Saturday, and also Sunday, the Pacific City Farmers Market is 10 to 2 at the corner of Camp Street and Bruton Road. Happy birthday to Dave Madison and Larry Schaefer. Thanks again for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you, Tillamook, for listening.